Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Political Insider. I'm Brett Smith, your humble host, and joining us today is another humble man, extremely humble man. He is a comedian, professional troll, Blaze contributor, and the man rapidly climbing the ranks for public enemy number one, Alex Stein. Welcome, brother.
Wow, Brett, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm climbing the ranks, but you know, it's a shallow swamp. It's not really hard. I'm finding out very quickly that I need to get a little second apartment in DC because a lot of these politicians have such thin skin. I would have never thought. I would never thought they got in power. You know, that was very naive of me to think that these people are like, you know, tough or hardened. They're not. They're a bunch of snowflakes, as we say.
It's very true. I think you should have some kind of part-time residency in DC. I think that just the fear factor alone that would put into these people would be just worth it. You know, I mean, just the possibility of you around the corner at any time, that'd be awesome. You know,
well, Brett, I had no idea. I mean, people told me that you can go right up to the Capitol steps, and you've heard about that, but I didn't realize I can literally go right there. I've already had my trip planned in September, the second week of September. They're back. They're not really in session together much in August, like for about 4 days, but in September they're in session a lot. So I'm coming back. I got my Capitol tours planned. I got everything planned. So this was just a dry run. This is the pilot episode of what's about to happen, and Primetime Goes to DC.
Beautiful. Hey, for our friends who may not be familiar with your work, I can't imagine who that would be at this point. You've been called a satirist, a comedian, and of course a sexist troll. Can you
idiot, Proud Boy, racist? Yeah, you're leaving out a lot of the names they call me, Brett. Yeah, every ism, every ist, yes. Yeah. Well, okay, but I kind of cut off your question, but seriously, let me tell you why I kind of do this. So during the beginning of the pandemic, I started speaking at city council meetings very earnestly, seriously, you know, and, you know, being a little sarcastic, but not anything to what I'm doing now, talking about how this really isn't, you know, it doesn't really stop the spread of, you know what, I know we got to be careful with what language you use because we're constantly getting censored. But I got no response. When I was ultra serious, these politicians just ignored me. I you know, compare them to what I call NPCs, non-playable character. You know, like they don't want to interact with a peon like myself. But once I started getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and I started astroturfing, and I started LARPing as what their agenda is, and just jamming in their face, I created a new genre of content called culture jamming, where you take, you know, the most absurd parts of our culture and you jam it in people's face to kind of expose how crazy things really have gotten. So because of that, now I'm labeled a troll, which is fine. I'm kind of like a villain, which is fine. I don't mind. I love wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I always liked, you know, D-Generation X. I always liked the villains, you know. So
yeah, or the heel for like
the heel. That's what I'm saying. I'm the heel.
Yeah, I mean, for my generation, it was like Roddy Piper. You know, I'm technically middle aged, 45, so it's like, you know, 80s WWF, Roddy Piper. I mean, probably one of the greatest heels of all time. My buddy Nick Searcy, who's also a conservative actor but huge wrestling fan, is also a lovable heel. You know, I mean,
But you know why Roddy's so awesome? They Live, which is a great movie. You know, and that's kind of what's happening now. That movie is epic, and it's funny how we look at like 1984 and like you know, a lot of like Brave New World, a lot of like the media and books that we read is all coming to true. It's all coming true now. But like They Live, it's kind of like you take off these glasses and everything is consume. Everything's establishment. When you take off those glasses, you realize we need to be anti-establishment, not even necessarily conservative or liberal. We need to be just anti-establishment, in my opinion.
Absolutely. No, I think it's like we're living in some kind of weird blend of like They Live and RoboCop at this point. Like I'm convinced. And it's like I'm all about making America 80s again. It's a great decade, especially for entertainment and comedy. I mean, you know, I grew up
political correctness. You can be politically incorrect. Now we're so correct. And I see that RoboCop, you know, RoboCop was filmed here in Dallas, Texas, where I live right now. Yeah. You know, that's a legendary movie. One of the best ever. Yeah.
They actually got kicked out for blowing up that gas station. Apparently that was way too much explosives for that.
Yeah. In Deep Ellum. Yeah. In Deep Ellum. Yeah. That was a big deal. Where they blew that gas.
They blew out like windows in buildings for like city blocks. And I guess they actually caused the Dallas City Council to change laws when it comes to filming downtown and what you can and can't get away with, which is really interesting. But
well, actually, speaking of that too, so I work at the Blaze, and Glenn Beck, he bought this company, or he bought the old Paramount Studios, and this Paramount Studios is called it was a Las Colinas, you know, film studios, and like in school you would go and you take tours of it. It's like a really first class, huge movie studio. And at one point, Dallas was going to be like the third coast, and we were going to have a lot of movies here because it was just cheaper to live here than LA or New York. But instead, because of the city council, because of movies like that, they made it harder for productions to actually get good tax incentives. So it sucks. Dallas could have been obviously it's not going to be Hollywood or it's not going to be New York,
but it could be
really
Georgia. It could have been Georgia.
Exactly. See, Georgia got it. New Orleans got it. And now Dallas, very rarely. But we have a lot of, advertisements that film here because a lot of companies are headquartered here. But that's not the cool media. Nobody cares about commercials compared to like blockbuster movies. I'm all about the government getting out of business, in the conservative side. But it's like these people don't realize there's just so many there's not that many movies that get made. You know what I mean? So like helping them out, it's not going to really hurt you out. It's not going to hurt your bottom line with taxes and stuff. They just don't realize it's just a very niche industry. And then we should be supporting it. So it just sucks that cities like Dallas and Arizona, when they had opportunities to become big parts of the film industry because it doesn't rain a lot, which is a big thing. So they can film outside. They can't have cancellations. It doesn't get taken advantage of, doesn't get used.
If anything, Texas ought to be passing laws to help conservative filmmakers, guys like Nick Searcy, Sorbo, Dean Cain, helping them with tax incentives to get movies made. Yeah. Conservatives are always complaining about how, we don't have media, we don't have entertainment made for us. It's just made by left-wing people. I spent 27 years working in the comic book industry, working behind enemy lines. So it's like, so I understand. And it's like, now you try and create stuff for our side, because it's basically a demographic that's been sort of abandoned. But
100%, yeah, definitely, and it really is. It's like we have all this media. The top media companies are literally like, all liberal, trying to, they try to make every comic book hero transgender or gay. It's just very weird. Like it's very blatant. It's not even a conspiracy anymore. We're getting woke because, like you said, in the 80s, we didn't have to be so politically correct. Now we have to be ultra politically correct. And it's just, it kills. And that's why I'm being successful, is because there's a huge void in comedy. In me going and trolling people, it's like I'm like Sacha Baron Cohen, who I love, but his politics suck, obviously. Yeah. But I'm kind of just being like the conservative version of him because he can't even really do his job anymore. He came out with This Is America, I forget the name of his show, and that was okay. Yeah. But my point being is like he doesn't want to offend people. Now that he's successful, he doesn't want to push the envelope of political incorrectness.
And it makes no sense. I mean, the job of a satirist is literally to make people in power really, really uncomfortable. Whether you're talking the National Lampoon magazine, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV, Living Color. I mean, these were shows that I grew up on, which just slayed the people in power. Sometimes they would lampoon Hollywood. They would lampoon their own people. And we don't even see that anymore. So it's sad.
And they should lampoon Hollywood. I mean, you look at Harvey Weinstein and stuff. I mean, Hollywood's like, obviously I love movies. You love movies. So like the classicness of Hollywood is great. But now like what it's devolved into is terrible. And it's like all these, these actors that give us all their political viewpoints that don't even have any idea what's going on. They all want to be socialists, yet they're all multimillionaires, limousine liberals. Like it's just the hypocrisy in Hollywood has gotten so bad. We should be making fun of it now more than ever, but shows like Saturday Night Live just a few years ago would have a viral video every Monday. Now their videos suck. Now they don't ever have viral clips anymore.
They haven't been funny in a long time, man. It's truly sad. Hey, let's jump over to AOC because this was so classic. A lot of people who had never seen your stuff before, your videos or your work, they saw your AOC video last week when you declared to her in person that she is in fact your favorite big booty Latina. And even though she wants to kill babies, she's still your favorite big booty Latina. It appeared initially she approached you to like take a selfie. And I think she even said, "Hey, let's take a selfie." And she flashed the peace sign. Did you catch that when she did that?
Of course, yeah, because she liked the energy. She loves the camera. When she saw me, it's when she realized that I was, kind of a right-wing provocateur, as they call me. That's when she freaked out. But seriously, people are also be like, a lot of people I'm getting, heat about it in the conservative side. They're like, we love that you exposed her for calling out the Capitol Police and saying January 6th was an inside job. We just don't like the way you did it. Well, first of all, these people, the means always justify the ends. So they don't care. They don't care about the sexualization of children. They don't care about drag queen story time. Yet if I go and say, oh, you have a nice butt, that is horrible sexual harassment. These are the same people cheerleading. Like I went to an event called Drag Your Kids to Pride event where kids were literally tipping drag queens as if they're strippers, men dancing in thongs. But my point being is I actually called it before. I was like, hey, if I run into AOC, I'm going to call her and I'm going to sexualize her because she always plays the victim, Brett. She's always like, I'm sexualized. She doesn't like me. They don't like me because my fiance's foot was in a picture. Yeah, they all don't like me because they want to date me.
They want to date her.
They want to date her. And so in my mind, I goes, okay, well, let me act like I want to date her because nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever, and it's culture jamming because like I got Adam Kinzinger and I was like, hey, you're a douchebag, Kinzinger, you're a sellout, you're a traitor. But that, you put your head down. But see, I gave her the right energy. I entrapped her. I said, oh, you're so sexy. You're so fine. My big booty Latina. And then she came in to get the selfie, even if she was doing it ironically. It ended up being very unironic when she's like, oh, I was going to deck him. I was going to hit him. Yet she stood up the peace sign and smiling. So it just exposes how most of them are all liars.
So after it happens, she senses an opportunity to capitalize. She springs into victim mode and records a video where she said you were harassing her in a racist and sexist ways, talking about her, quote, juicy booty, which is strange considering you never used either of those two words together. Yeah. Were you surprised after professing your love for her that her response back to you would be so cruel?
No, I was not okay. I was surprised that I entrapped her so much that it would invoke a response like that, where she would make all those Instagram posts and then she would do a survey about it. But I recently called out Dan Crenshaw. I called him Eye Patch McCain, and Dan Crenshaw was so thin-skinned. He tweeted about me. He tweets like a video of it, a Mediaite, my video, and basically what she did, except she downloaded the video and actually shared it. She even went a little farther, but he shared a Mediaite article, which is the most left-leaning publication there is on the internet, and they were running cover for Dan Crenshaw. So that shows you who his alliances are. But in his tweet, he called me, Alex Stein is what happens when people can't, grow up and can't get a girlfriend. First of all, I'm like 2 feet taller than Dan Crenshaw. But my point being is he was so mad getting ratioed, he was getting ratioed so hardcore that he went and tried to profess that I assaulted one of his staffers, that I was the one that got assaulted. He tried to say I'd knocked down a woman. This was all on tape. She never got knocked down. I never even touched her. So with my experience with politicians so far is that they will lie. So AOC's lies by saying I said juicy ass, I don't even think that's that bad. I didn't say either of those words in that conjunction. But of course she says, of course there's always three sides of the story, my side, her side, and the truth. And to be honest, it's all on camera. So you don't even need to know her side or my side. You got the truth like on film.
Her video was fantastic because she kind of propped the camera up and she showed you and you're waving.
And I'm waving. Yeah. And like a tourist. And see, I had just gotten off the plane. See, Brett, I didn't realize that I had such access to these politicians. Like I just got off the plane and I got a hotel in Capitol Hill, like 0.4 miles away, the Hyatt, on purpose, knowing that I was going to be hanging out there. So I just kind of walked up there in my shorts and t-shirt. Usually I would have like a tie on if I was going to ask some serious questions, but I was just like, oh, I'm going to kind of see how it works, how far I can get, where,
smart, because you look at tourists as kind of camo, you're hiding in plain sight, basically. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that was just kind of dumb luck, but it wasn't dumb luck what I said. Like the sexualization thing, like I'm not even perverted. I'm not even trying to date her, but I wanted to actually give her the ammunition because she just recently posted that she was getting her nails done for women, female empowerment. So I was like, okay, well, let's actually kind of sexualize her a little, take it to the line without crossing it. And I wanted to get a response. I had no idea that I would get such a response, but I go there and she tries to say that, oh, the Capitol Police did nothing. First of all, she complained to the cops in her own tweet 5 times. The cops came down, they ID'd me, I gave them my ID, they ran and saw that I didn't have any warrants, and then they were kind of waiting for a supervisor. Like I could just tell more people were coming, more cops are coming, and at this point, by the time there was like 4 cops around me, I just said, all right, guys, am I under arrest? Am I being detained? They're like, no. I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave. So they did intimidate me to leave the Capitol, and then that became the biggest story ever. And then the next day, I only spent about 30 minutes outside the Capitol because I couldn't go spend much time there because I had a memorial for a World War II vet that had died. So I didn't. So that day was kind of a waste. So my little opportunity, I got lucky to say the least. But now I'm going back in September. But my point being with all this is that anybody, if you really want to go talk to these politicians, they're right there. They're available, and it's insane. I had no idea. So now Washington, D.C. is going to be my second home.
Well, Maxine Waters, I mean, she encouraged people to go and talk to politicians. I don't see why our side can't do the same in kind, It's all fair.
And AOC said to make politicians uncomfortable. Exact words, her exact tweet. Yeah. So go figure. And really, all I did was compliment her. Yes, I did it in kind of a sexual manner, but it was literally compliments towards her figure. But they don't want to be sexualized. I get it. I mean, but her fiance was right there. If it was that big a deal, why didn't he just say, hey, shut your mouth, bud, that's my girl? He didn't do any of that. That would have been the best content, but instead he looked like a baby back bee, for not saying anything. And I think she was embarrassed about that, especially.
You obviously thought about doing this. was the reaction you got, was it what you thought was going to happen?
No way. Like, I thought I would get some sort of response from her, like, there by saying something sexual. Like, I didn't know she'd come and say the tweet, but I wanted to. I, like, want her to get mad at me. I want her to be like, hey, F you. You know, I want to catch her off guard. I want to draw her off sides. Like, Tom Brady's like, hut, you know, trying to make the team come off sides. That's what I'm trying to do with that mentality. I'm not trying to just get them to put their head down and ignore me like Kinzinger, because that doesn't even necessarily make for good content. But that's what would have made her look most professional. But she's not professional. She's an ex-bartender, and she's pretty, and she's well-spoken. She graduated from Boston University, which I found out I didn't even notice. So I'm saying she's not, you know, she's not like total dolt like she plays, even though her politics are terrible. She wants to murder babies, and, you know, she thinks climate change is like the biggest issue in the world right now. When, like, inflation, people can't fill up their car, you know, to even drive to the grocery store. But she thinks, you know, global warming is our biggest problem. But my point being is, even though she is not, you know, the brightest bulb, she's not the dumbest either, but she's just not that professional. She's a rookie. She's 32. I'm older than her. I'm 3 years older than her. So I kind of was like picking on it. Felt like I was picking on a freshman as a senior, kind of in high school all over
That's awesome. Again. Yeah, people forget she's a young girl, you know, and she's inexperienced, and she doesn't have life experience. But I heard she was a good bartender. I heard she makes a mean Singapore slang. That's what I heard.
Honestly, no, I'm serious. I bet she is, because you see when she pours her drinks on her Instagram Live, she's like pouring them heavy and strong. And that's the thing. She's relatable to like the kind of spinstress, like 30-year-old girl. I'm not even saying that she's unrelatable. And all the people on the conservative side, I go on the Blaze, and people are like, oh, she's so ugly. She is 100% pretty. I mean, she really is. She's thin. She's in good shape. I don't care. People are like, oh, she has big bug eyes. Seriously, she's not ugly. I'll give you that. She's not ugly, not one bit. So you know, I can see why she's a good bartender.
I mean, she's Sandy from the Bronx. I get it. That's who I see, and I see that as a very clever way to market stuff. Essentially, I mean, she's straight out of Central Casting when I look at her.
And her documentary basically explained that she was basically casted to run in that. You know, they had people submit and audition, and she was the one that got it. And at the same time, dude, in her district, bodega owners are going to jail for manslaughter for defending their bodega and from getting, they got stabbed. The guys are going across the counter. And she doesn't talk about that. She didn't talk about the victimhood mentality and the fact that New York is like literally rotting. I mean, they have a bail reform system that she loves, or just lets criminals out of jail. My family, we're in the bail bond business. And listen, we need bail bondsmen because that is a third-party police force to make sure these people go to court. Because they don't have that, more criminals, they gravitate towards New York, knowing that they can commit crimes and get out of jail. So it's just crime begets more crime. It's just terrible.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. That's a great point. So you obviously love to use humor when confronting the left, specifically methods of satire and mockery. The Political Insider wrote about one of my absolute favorite videos you did, where you showed up to the Richardson, Texas City Council. They had a meeting, and you tried to recruit the council members to join the war effort in Ukraine.
That's what I ask you. I ask you to sign up for this man right here. He would do it for you. He loves Richardson, Texas. I love Richardson, Texas. This is an important city and an important metroplex. And I said this at the beginning, and I'll say this at the end. It only takes one of you to inspire thousands, to inspire millions, to go fight a war and to win. Because when history writes it in the books, you're going to be on one side, either the good side or the bad side. Are you going to be with Vladimir Putin? I sure as heck wouldn't want to be with Vladimir Putin. I know that. The man's evil. He's killing children. He's killing stray animals, cats, with his bombs. I'm a vegetarian. I don't even eat meat. When I see on the TV and I see a cat burned up from a bomb, it makes me sick. I realize I got to do something about it. But you can do something about it. When you join Ukraine's Foreign Legion, we're going to train you. You don't even need any training. We're going to teach you. As a matter of fact, we'd prefer if you didn't have training, because we don't want somebody that's all messed up. We want to teach you your gun skills. We're going to teach you how to fight. We're going to teach you how to win. So I ask you, who is going to sign up today? Who's going to stand up and sign up for this? Who's going to do it? Are you going to sign up? No? Are you going to sign up, Shannon?
Could you please stand behind the... Sir, I won't ask you again. Please go behind the podium.
I'm trying to do something. See, that's a difference, Paul. You're a coward. You're not willing to die. for this, but I am. That's the difference between you and me. You are a coward, and I'm a hero. This is a hero. You would never know what it's like, Paul, to be like this. You will never know what it's like to be president. You will never know. And you will never fight. And you will be on the wrong side of history. And all you have to do is sign up on this form right now, and you can go fight.
Thank you for your public comments.
Thank you.
Your time is over.
I appreciate that. If you guys want more information, go to Primetime Stein on Instagram. That's where you're going to be able to sign up. Thank you. And God bless.
And I was just curious, what was the reaction you got from them? Because it's just classic.
Well, that's one of my best videos because it got me in contact with my biological father, Tucker Carlson. So
Right.
Tucker has obviously seen a lot of my content. I had some videos go kind of viral, but that one, even though it didn't get like the most hits out of everything, it resonated with people because of the, just the absurdness of it. The fact that I went there and I'm trying to recruit them to the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, which is no different than what's happening right now. We're basically fighting a proxy war by sending them nearly $100 billion to the Ukraine. Now, none of us could even pick it out on a map. I mean, maybe we could now, but we couldn't before this war. And what's going on with that, it's like I basically LARPed Malcolm Nance, who's an MSNBC, contributor, into actually going and joining the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. So you're asking my response. You're asking me what the response was in the meeting. I mean, they thought I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, as they say.
Yeah.
And I am. And that's the thing, I am. But I was making a point. I brought the boombox. I was making a point about we need to worry about Vladimir Zelensky and we need to protect him more than we need to protect our own people, which shows you that I'm not a globalist. I'm America first all day long. I care about our country. But these people care more about the border between Russia and Ukraine than they care about the border between Texas and Mexico. Because you look at the sex trafficking and drug trafficking, our country is actually being poisoned from within, and it's really disgusting that all this money and support is going to a country where gay marriage is not legal. If transgenders are not, they're not even accepted. If you're trans, you have to go get thrown to the front lines. You can't go escape to Poland. So it's like all these people on the left that are cheering for this war couldn't even live their lives freely if they went to the Ukraine. So it's like, oh my gosh, wake up, folks, wake up.
I wonder what the abortion laws in Ukraine are like.
Well, in Europe, they have strict abortion laws. Like, who was it? It was Justin Bieber's wife. In France, it was like 14 weeks.
14
and
weeks.
Listen, and obviously, I'm anti-abortion, but even if you ask somebody that's pro-choice, and there's surveys of it, even people that are pro-choice, they still believe there should be a limit. Like, definitely not the third trimester, definitely not, after X amount of days. Yet these people in power literally want to have abortion up till birth. Like, it's not even matching what the pro-choice people want because these politicians are evil. They're working for corporations that want to use these fetuses for either testing or God knows what. But there's a sinister reason behind letting a person get an abortion up until the moment of birth. Makes absolutely no sense, in my opinion, even if you're pro-choice.
Hey, why is using humor and lampooning the left such a powerful weapon when used against them? And why is it that they don't seem to have an answer for it when it happens to them?
Well, first of all, I mean, you could argue that people on the right too are kind of ultra serious, but this is the thing: is humor is the only way to break out of the trauma-based mind control. I use that word a lot because when you're watching CNN and it's Brian Stelter, it's always a negative thing. They even got in trouble for overusing the word breaking news. Everything's breaking news. Kamala Harris, her heel breaks on her shoe. Oh, breaking news. The right wing sabotaged her high heel or something. Like literally everything is breaking news. They do that because they want you to constantly have a dopamine hit, like constant serotonin, like, oh, there's some new thing, when there's never really some new important thing. It's just the death scroll, 600,000 dead, 700,000 dead. So people are under constant trauma that humor is the only way to make them laugh. And it kind of becomes like where, it's almost like a spectrum, like where things get so bad, you almost have to laugh.
Yeah.
You almost have to laugh in order to just break free of it. So I think that's why it's effective is these ultra serious people that want to be politically correct. When I go up there and I wear a women's bathing suit to a city council meeting and I talk about how I want to change in the women's locker room and they're like, oh, wait, is that really what Leah Thomas is doing, who swam on the men's team as 457th ranked men's swimmer and then became the #1 women's ranked swimmer? So I'm saying there's a war on women. You kind of have to use this humor and this, you need some sugar to help the medicine go down because the medicine's gross. It's a huge pill like this that nobody can swallow. It's very hard pill to swallow.
Why do you think humor is so much more powerful and effective at exposing people to the truth than your typical political speech, political ad, polls, political pundits, political consultants, political books? It's just, especially on the right, it seems like a lot of conservatives tend to rely on these rather than using humor and satire through the lens of entertainment.
Well, you make a good point because now that I've been successful in the past year, like I said, I'm signed with Blaze and I have a show coming out with them in September. And I think what they've described me as and then a lot of other people have used it too, is that we need more political comedians. Like Norm Macdonald was a pretty political comedian back when he used to call it the Clintons all the time on Saturday Night Live, back when he was like the hottest he was. Then in his older age, he got a little less political, realizing that it's like, you don't want to have to fall on your sword. But my point being is that there's a void. There's enough political commentators, but people take themselves too serious on both sides. So me being a goofball and don't believe anything I say, don't even have the same viewpoint as me. I just want you to question the reality in which you live in and make that decision for yourself. So I think that's why I'm a threat, is because I'm not serious. I'm ultra unserious. And there's not enough people doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like literally, like I'm a clown and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being called a troll because listen, I'm not a serious journalist. I'm the opposite of that. What I'm trying to do is like Sacha Baron Cohen used to do, like Andy Kaufman used to do. I want to blend the line of reality and fiction to make people ask the question, is this real? Is this really what's happening? And then they do the research themselves, because most people don't want to do it. Like they just want somebody else to tell them, oh, this is what's happening. I'll just trust you, whatever you say. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust me. Don't trust the government. Don't trust anybody. Trust no one, as they say in the hood, and make the decision yourself. Like in a civil case, it's different. You just have to have like reason. Like, if you think this person is 51% right, they win. But in a criminal case, as a criminal defense attorney, not that I'm a lawyer, I should have gone to law school probably, but now I have a career, thank God. You just want to you have to have without a reasonable doubt. You have to have, there cannot be any doubt whatsoever that they might be innocent. So that's really what, like, you nailed it. I'm just trying to, almost like a criminal defense attorney tries to just create some doubt so that people make the decision themselves, so they don't just go with the status quo. So I really like the way you described that. I'm literally not trying to make them believe me. I'm just trying to make them realize that you should maybe doubt everything you hear on the radio, television, media. It doesn't matter. Like they said, New York Times said the day of the election in 2016, Hillary had a 98% chance of winning and then got crushed. So we should have been doubting that the whole time, but it's easier said than done.
That was such a beautiful night. I stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch that. That was amazing. I was just
one of the greatest nights ever. It was insane. I thought Trump was going to lose. I really did. I was like, oh, no way. And then it just kept on coming. I mean, I was just shocked as anybody. I remember waking up and be like, no, this is not. It was a good shock. But honest to God, I think that was for me, that was one of the biggest moments too, that I realized, oh, the media is a liar. It's like, what? I thought they knew something that we didn't. You realize, no, they're trying to create something that, we don't agree with. They're trying to create the truth themselves.
Yeah, it's a business, like anything else. But, comedians also storytell, and I'm always big, I work in comics and graphic storytelling, and I'm a firm believer in storytelling because you can bring people to conclusions on their own through the story. And I find that comedians are one of the best at storytelling, because essentially it's kind of like, if I ask you what you did today, you're going to tell me a story. So and that's how humans communicate. And I love how you likened sort of diffusing the situation, a tense situation or serious topics with humor, because it reminds me of like even guys in combat who joke when they're under fire. It's just a natural human reaction. I think it's a way of it's a coping mechanism, I think, more than anything.
It is a coping mechanism. It's either we laugh or we cry, and I'd rather laugh than be crying.
Something else I wanted to ask you. There seemed to be a very noticeable divide or litmus test among conservatives as to whether your video with AOC and Adam Kinzinger was comedy or harassment. Do you think that divide is generational, or do you think it's kind of a case of DC Insider protecting DC Insider?
I mean, it is a little bit of harassment. I'm saying you're a douchebag. We got to harass these people. Listen, I don't care. I harassed a politician. What are you talking about? These people are cheerleading people to go harass people at restaurants. They harass Brett Kavanaugh. Now, I would never physically harass somebody, but sticks and stones may break my bones. So words will never hurt me. What the heck? I'm going to go. I'm not out here to sing Kumbaya. If you suck, I'm going to say you suck. You call that harassment? I don't care. It is a form of harassment. I'm trying to harass the people that are literally selling us out to multinational corporations. So if anybody deserves to be harassed, it's these politicians. So you know what? Oh, Alex, you go and harass politicians. You're gosh dang right. I'll harass them all verbally if I can, for the ones that are doing me dirty.
Hey, that's the Chicago way, brother. You know, they bring a knife, you bring a gun. This is how we beat them. I love it. I think it's great. And they're above harassment. They're above taking criticism. I would argue whether it's harassment or not. I think you're being playful.
I am being playful, but I'm just saying I don't even want to argue about it, because to these people on the left, literally, I said this earlier, the means always justify the ends. Like, they'll do anything to get their way. At the end of the day, they might stack the court.
Yeah.
So I'm literally just taking their rules for radical Saul Alinsky playbook and using it against him. And they're like, oh, you're a harasser. Okay, maybe I am, but I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to be civilly disobedient, because that's the thing they fear the most. Brett, they do not want us to be civilly disobedient. It's like, oh, you got to wear the mask. Don't wear the mask. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to get vaccinated. Don't get vaccinated. Oh, you're the worst. You're not vaccinated. Oh, you know, it's literally just something that small turns you into a domestic terrorist. It's insane.
No, we're the counterculture now. We need to act like it. And part of that is being punks and rebelling and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, I think it's a generational thing in a lot of ways. Certain conservatives were kind of bashing what you were doing and saying that
Fox News,
harassment.
Bill O'Reilly, everybody. Yeah, they're all coming at you. It's because there's also this like thing where you have to LARP as a conservative, where you're like, you know, anti-sexualization, all this. But listen, I grew up when Howard Stern was actually cool. Now he sucks. But in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, you know, he would ask every person, do you do anal sex? Do you do all this weird stuff? And people are like, oh, that's so funny. You're so funny. That's back when we didn't have to be politically correct. So now I think even people on the right, they're trying to be a little too politically correct. We're the majority of people, we meet in the middle. So we shouldn't appease. Like, they'll call me alt-right. I'm the farthest thing from alt-right. I consider myself very moderate.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to be a little more moderate and not be ultra like listen, I love Christian values all day long, but you'll see a lot of like people like, oh, you're a Christian fascist. And I've met some Christian fascists that are kind of crazy, you know, and I'm saying I've met some Antifa that are crazy. My point being is like, we kind of, if we want to try to like, you know, the old kumbaya, hold hands and get along. Not that will ever happen. We do kind of have to be in the middle a little bit. We can't be ultra conservative, and we can't be ultra liberal. Like we need to come together and meet in the middle somehow.
Need a big tent, and that's the other thing that Trump brought back in 2016 was a really big tent to the Republican Party, a lot of diversity. And I think that's important, and frankly, it's how we win, man. I mean, that is it's just it's a numbers game. So,
and to say that, Brett, you see a lot of the Latinos, people of color now, or I think it was New York Times, I forget who just did it. They're all coming to the conservative side, and they've always had conservative values. People, you know, Catholics, Hispanics here in Texas, they don't ever get abortions, and that's why their population is growing so much. So it's funny that these people are under some sort of spell into thinking, oh, because I'm a Latinx, I got to vote Democrat. My point being is now people are realizing, oh man, these conservative values, it's not just all, you know, Christian based right wingism. It's actually more about like, you know, saving people's lives and being, you know, having a little moral compass compared to the left, which has none.
Yeah, and law and order. I mean, look at the border. You know, you and I are both in Texas, and you look at Mayra Flores, and you know, who flipped the seat from like 150 years ago. It was Republican. We're talking like Abe Lincoln time, and now it's flipped. She's Republican, and it's amazing to me that it's the social issues which are, you know, along with the economic stuff, but really the social stuff, which is starting to kind of flip the Latino community to Republican. So that's the last thing. I always thought it'd be economic. Yeah, it is.
No,
it's
but
awesome.
That's a really good thing. We want that.
But, you know, it's funny. Generationally, it's like I grew up, probably you watched some of this stuff, but it's like Jerky Boys, Crank Yankers, Jackass, Wild Boys, Viva La Band.
That's all. Yeah.
I got a buddy that works for that's worked for Jeff Tremaine and Dick House out in LA for the last 20 years. Wild Boys and Jackass. So it's like my generation, Gen X, older millennials, we all grew up on these things. And I think it's like when we look at your stuff, it's natural to see it as comedy, clearly playful, maybe sort of a little menacingly playful, but that's fun. You know, it wouldn't be fun otherwise.
Well, you nailed it with the Jerky Boys. That's when I started calling into all these meetings. Everything was shut down. It was over Zoom. So I was, you know, it's like, this is the new Jerky Boys. Because theirs was just over the phone. Now we have a video. We can see it. And it makes it, this is just the natural trajectory of where the prank call goes. Now, because of Zoom, it's like the video prank call. You know, who would have thought it? And then watch, in 10 years from now, and I always say 10 years, but it probably sooner than that, there's going to be a lot more people doing what I'm doing, culture jamming, trolling, these things. Like, there's only going to be more people doing it. And I encourage copycats. People are like, Alex, what do you like the most? It's It's like, I don't make a ton of money, but I'm starting to make some money. I'm starting to do okay financially. But my favorite thing to hear is not money. I love when people tell me, oh, I went and I spoke at a school board meeting. Oh, I went and I spoke at my city council meeting. That's the best, because then I feel like I'm doing like a fight club where people are going to go stand up for what they believe in, because the local level is what matters the most. Yeah. People don't realize it is very important. That's where they're putting in the mandates for this and that. So you need to go speak up, because, you know, all these people at the top, they're going to sell us out no matter what. And it's hard to have access to them unless you can go to DC and call them out. But the people in your local government, the people that are controlling your district, that's where you need to make the most noise. And so when other people do that, it makes me feel so good.
You know, you turn these city council meetings, which are probably the most boring and just mundane things in the world, and nobody wants to go to them because of that, you know, but you turn them into performance art. You've turned them into literally SNL skits, or straight out of the pages of the old National Lampoon magazine back in the 70s when it was funny. I mean, it's literally like an SNL skit. And I just think to myself, it is going to cause people to copycat, because you're having fun, you're lampooning them, you're making them uncomfortable, while at the same time making a great point. And also persuading people, and making, like we talked about, making them question this stuff. If anything, just making them question it, bringing that element of doubt into it. And I hope there is copycats, man. I want to see people do this more, because
me too.
Because it really seems to get under their skin. It's the one thing I've seen, especially about the left. When you lampoon them, they really don't like that, because they not used to it. They're not used to it. They're used to being the one that dish it out. They never take it. So it's almost like they're not prepared to take it. They're not built for it, or because they're not used to it. They don't have any experience taking it. So it's like, you know, you come along and they're just completely flummoxed. They have no idea what to do. It's fantastic. Let's close out. Last question. Who's your favorite comedian? You talked about Andy Kaufman, who's one of my favorites. Who, you know, I used to think that Andy almost performed for himself. You know,
and that's what I do. Wait, Brett. And see, that's what I do. I love when I go into a meeting, even if it's not the funniest video, and I'm acting like I'm a trans person and I'm mad about abortion. And I love when I see the council member's face and they're really like sympathizing with me. See, I hate it when they know that I'm trolling at the beginning. Now that I'm getting more well known, it's hard to actually create that response. Yeah. So like, I actually miss that. And so now what I've been doing is, my buddy Cassidy Campbell has a big YouTube channel. We'll go door knocking like we're Beto canvassers, and we'll be like, you know, do you want to transition 3-year-old babies? You know, and you have the government pay for it. And the way these people believe me, I'm like, oh, this feels good. Even though like it's not, you know, it's not even, it is okay content for the internet. It might get a few thousand hits or whatever. But my point being is, like, I kind of like when they don't realize that I'm joking, because I'm kind of laughing to myself. Now, of course, you want your comedy to be well received, but at the same time, because I'm picking basically a political side, I'm a very polarizing figure. I'm going to be hated on the left. They're going to call and pick at my comedy shows. They're going to call and get the club to cancel. And then there's going to be the other side that sells out the club. They pick it in my show in New York. It was sold out. They got my show shut down in DC, but it was sold out. And then people still came to the Capitol steps. So my point being, I'd rather be like that than a comedian that can't even sell out a club. Yeah. I'd rather be able to sell it out and have people mad. The same way Andy Kaufman, towards the end of his career, because he was wrestling women, like, people hated him, but they didn't realize it was a joke. He's trolling, and they don't understand that. So another comedic influence is Sacha Baron Cohen. Like I said, his politics suck, but I liked his mindset of what he did. He's playing these characters, and he's like astroturfing. Like, even though he's Jewish, a lot of times his character's like anti-Jew stuff. Like, my point being, I'm just using it I'm not anti-Jew. I'm just saying you see what I'm saying? That's the astroturfing that he would do in order to make other people agree with him. So I'm using that in a different aspect, is I'm pretending to be a crazy leftist to see if they'll agree with me, to see if they'll pee on the right or make fun of the right. And that's the best way to do it, is the astroturfing, is the fake being, you know, pretending to be on the side that you oppose in order to make people realize, wait, this is what I believe in. So I really liked Sacha Baron Cohen's technique. And Andy Kaufman, I think, is one of the most brilliant guys to ever do it. His career on SNL, him on Fridays, just, you know, everything he did was great. So yeah, those are two of my big influences.
You're gonna need a disguise, or some disguises. You're gonna.
I gotta lose some weight. I gotta lose some weight, because I have a rubber face. I can kind of make myself look different. Because people like at the airport, they're like, You look familiar. You look familiar. I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy that goes to town hall meetings. So, oh,
it wouldn't
so
take
I
much
guess
to do a little bit of just you know, a wardrobe change and maybe a little bit of makeup, a wig, a hat, something like that. But
I can figure it out.
You could do a Tony Clifton. I mean, you need a Tony Clifton. You know?
I do. I got to have an alter ego 100%.
Exactly.
Well, Primetime 99 Alex Stein's kind of my alter ego because really, I'm really not. Like I look in the mirror and I have so many insecurities just like everybody else. And I don't try to beat myself up about it. I guess that's the only thing that separates me is I'm willing to be the butt of a joke. I'm willing to let people laugh at me. Because I want people to laugh. Like I don't want people to take me ultra serious. And that's like what you said earlier. These people on the left, because they kind of have imposter syndrome, they probably don't feel like, oh, I should be this congressman. I should be this. So they want to be taken extra serious unless they realize that nobody cares. Like your biggest fan is a stranger and your biggest enemy is probably somebody close to you. Like my point being is literally trying to make everybody like you. That's an impossible feat. So once I stop doing that, then I got a devoted people that do like me and devoted people that hate me, which I'll accept it. I appreciate them almost as much as the people. Not as much, almost as much.
Hey, sadly, we're out of time. Give everyone your social media coordinates so they know where to find you and also check out what you're up to.
It's Alex Stein 99 on Twitter, Primetime Stein on Instagram. If you can't find me, you're not looking that hard, check me out on YouTube. I'm all over the internet. I'm a Blaze TV contributor. I got a show coming out in September, so I'm on the grind all the time. I really appreciate you. The best way you can support me is watch my stuff and share my stuff. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, dude. Come back. We'd love to have you back. It's an awesome.
For sure, yeah. I'll have something again to get your attention, Brett. I'm going to Uvalde in 2 weeks, so that'll be good. I think that'll go viral, me calling everybody out when I bring in all the handouts. I'm going to bring out big poster boards of the people laughing. So I think that'll be a national story as well.
More than likely. Yeah, more than likely. So, well, thanks again, brother. I really appreciate it.